Hope you guys are doing well, safe and sound, away from all this craziness that is in our world right now. In this video, this is probably not a video you guys would expect coming from me, to be totally honest with you. I'll be honest with you, the topic we're going to talk about today, 5 or 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have understood or even given a shit about, and I probably wouldn't even had a conversation about what we're going to talk about today, to be totally honest with you. But I feel like, there's a lot of times I get emotional, I shoot my mouth off, and it's really just me venting, right? But if you really want to create change and you want to get people to understand, you need to present things to people in the way that they understand it. You need to speak in their own language. And I think that that's what I'm going to try to do here today, because I had to learn this in the most basic of ways, but now I understand it. Like, I didn't just learn it, I actually understand it. And it's all because I became a business owner. If I wasn't a business owner, I would not know this, or not understand this, I should say. And I have people like Jay Cutler and Rich Piana to thank for that, because they really were the people that I look up to, and they actually did help me when I started my own business. And that really motivated me to learn a lot about, or as much as I could about business that I could understand in the shortest time possible. And, I don't have an economics degree. I do have a very close friend who has a PhD in economics, which we could probably get him to come on here and explain things in a very technical way that'll probably blow people's minds. But the problem is, the people that don't understand this, if they're getting things explained to them the same way that is happening in the public right now, they still don't understand. So if I can explain it how I understand it, now granted, some of the terms may be very different that I use, but it's not about the technical terms, it's about grasping the concepts and understanding it, because that's when you actually truly have the aha moment and understand it. So that at least you can be on board with why things are the way they are. Now, I want to start out right now, because you're probably like, Jerry, what are we talking about? We're talking about the $15 an hour minimum wage. Okay? Now, at first glance, 10 years ago, I would have been like, that's a good idea. Because if everybody's making $15, I don't know what it is now, it's like 7 something an hour. If everybody's making $15 an hour, then right off the bat, they're going to be like basically doubling their income. So whatever financial woes they had are going to be gone within the first couple of months, because they're going to be making twice the amount of money doing the same job. That sounds unbelievable to me. I'm like, okay, that's the solution, cool. And I think a lot of people are understanding it that way. It's being presented to them that way, because it's all how you look at this, right? Every card has two sides, every coin has two sides. If you only look at one side and you're being explained that one side and you think that is the be-all end-all, when you flip the other side and you see the opposite of it, that's when people have a breakdown in understanding and communication on it, and they go, well, no, this is just a good thing. There can't be anything bad about this. If people are making more money and there's less poverty and they're creating a better life for themselves through more money, then what negative, what bad is there whatsoever? Now, bear with me, this is where it changes, right? So this $15 an hour that they're going to make mandatory, right? $15 an hour. Let's say you have a big business and you have a small business, right? So the small business maybe has 2 employees. The big business maybe has 20 employees, right? Well, it's not a huge, it's a big, whatever. You get what I'm saying. We're just throwing some numbers up there, right? So let's say this all along has been minimum wage. And this has been minimum wage also to their employees. The majority of them, to these, there's other employees, but these are who's making the minimum wage, right? So now you go from $8 and something cents an hour, or $7 or whatever it is, to $15 an hour. You double the income. You now double your payroll. So now it's like having 4 employees or 40 employees, because you've doubled what you're paying out. Although not double is coming into your business, you're paying out double now. So it's basically like you have more employees. Now, the problem is, if you could have 4 employees to run your business, then you would have 4 employees. If you could have 40, then you would. Because that frees up your time to do other things for the business, maybe even create new businesses, or whatever, or take vacations, or whatever the bottom line is, right? So the bottom line is, you can't sustain either one of these businesses with this many employees. So what happens is, now we have $15. So you say, look, we got to go down to 1 employee. Over here they say, look, we got to go down to 10. That's all there is to it. Now what happens? Now that's how they're saving money there, right? But now what happens is, now they have to make up for the profit margin section. Now they're just breaking even again. Now they're back down to breaking even with these numbers in the businesses. Now you say, we have to make money. We have to increase our profit somehow, right? So there's a couple ways to do that. You can increase the price of your products, right? Which now, let's say your products were $4.35, right? That was the product that you were selling for your business, right? And for 15 years, that's what you were selling it for, right? And now all of a sudden you're like, look, we need to change this, right? This is what's happening. Inflation, they keep saying inflation, right? Well, now we have to bring this up to $8, right? That's where we have to be at in order to actually make money now because of how this is working. We've already cut down our employees. We need to increase what we're making profit-wise. So we can do it that way by increasing it, or we can order more product, spread a bigger profit margin to make more money when we resell, selling at the same amount. But if we go ahead and don't raise this on the consumer, because now you're going to lose about 50% of your consumers right here because they can't afford $8 for the product, and they're probably buying yours because they like the price point over here. Now, if you'd increase it $1, fine, whatever. But if you increase it by double, which happens, you lose off 50% of your business. Now, these people are in danger of losing their jobs because the first thing you're going to do is make cuts to be able to keep that business going. Now, also, you can say, okay, well, why don't you just buy more product, right? Buy more product. It gives you a better price in the quantities. You increase your profit margins that way. Well, here's the problem. If you have a business and you're ordering, let's say, 50,000 units of a product, and you get a certain price, and that keeps your price at $435, and you want to keep it at $435, you now need to order 200,000 units of that product. Where do you think that money comes from? You're already losing money because you're literally paying out more to the employees for no more effort, right? So now where do you get the money to go out there and buy more of the product to get a cheaper price on it, to increase profit margins, to keep your prices the same and keep everybody employed? Well, you don't have that money. So what do? You take out a loan, right? So you take out a loan to do that. Now you're paying back a loan with interest. So you're losing more money in order. See what I'm saying? There's so many pieces to this, the way that it moves, that eventually this guy, it's not long, but this guy is out of business, which means that his dreams are gone. The people that had jobs are on unemployment now, and they're looking for a $15 an hour job now. Pretty much that's the lowest they can get. This company has now gone from being big to medium, and eventually wind up being a small business. And eventually, if it keeps going, that business is gone too. Happens all the time, all because we wanted to pay everybody $15 an hour across the board. That is how that works. Big businesses wind up cutting. Small businesses wind up cutting until they ultimately go out of business very quickly. And at the very, very least, they can sustain their businesses for a certain period of time by investing more money into it that they actually don't even have. Like, do you understand what's going on right now? So basically, the minimum wage, let's be real. Minimum wage, about to hurt some feelings right now, is for people that are either in high school, just got out of school, people that are starting their lives that don't have any skills yet, people that are still in college that don't have any skills to do anything. So you pay them a minimum wage to do a job that doesn't take any skill. That's what minimum wage is. So therefore, as you go and create more skills and you learn more things, you make yourself more valuable to a company. Now you wind up getting those different offers that are like, hey, it's not $8 an hour, it's $23 an hour. Right? As a personal trainer, $75 to $123 an hour, right? Why? Because those are skills that I learned over 30 years. That's why that money's there. When I first got into training, I was literally making about $10 an hour, which was even higher than minimum wage at the time, right? I was already making better than minimum wage, and I only had one certification, had just started doing it. Over the years, you acquire more knowledge, more skills, you get better at your craft, you are worth more. Your worth goes up. And you're not even talking about minimum wages anymore. Minimum wage isn't even on your map because you're building skills. But the problem is people don't want to build skills nowadays. They want to be handed. Eventually, $15, when inflation goes up and all these things happen, prices are going to go up. So your $4.35 that you used to pay for the product is now $8. Well, this was doubled, right? Well, guess what? This doubled too. So basically, what started over here for short-term fix wound up being exactly the same as all the products wind up going up in inflation because of what you did with this. Now, how do we solve this problem? How do people make more money than minimum wage? You go out and you gain skills. You learn new skills. You go to whatever job it is and you get experience. And you climb those ladders of those jobs, of those careers. And you get to a position where eventually, guys, I'm a perfect example. I started raking gravel and delivering newspapers, right? Out of high school, I was delivering pizzas. Out of high school, I was making pizzas, right? For minimum wage. But over time, I worked at a gas station for minimum wage. I worked the overnight shift. I did some of the shittiest jobs out there for a long period of time. But I was still doing my training. I was still learning. I was still gathering as much information as I possibly could about what I wanted to do, right? They call me the diet guy. Why? Because I focused so much on that diet stuff that now diets make sense to me at a point where if someone has an issue with their trainer or their coach and things are not going well, they can bring it to me and I can figure out what's going on really quickly and fix what's going on based on what I see with the diet. That didn't come from me reading one book. That came from me over and over and over again, learning new things, experimenting, getting experience through 30 years. So of course I'm not going to be making $8 or $15 an hour. I put so much effort. I mean, you do anything for 30 years, if you're a mechanic, if you, auto body paint, if you're a landscaper, whatever the case may be, a plumber, if you take the time to gain experience and better your craft, you eventually wind up not even worrying about this stuff because you have a whole different ball game that you're in. The problem is people are living in the minimum wage because their skill set is minimum wage. And they're complaining that they want more money than what they're being paid for minimum wage when they don't know anything but the basics that minimum wage cover. That's how you get past it. Education, experience, right? Building up your resume, learning. Because as you go through, let's say, for instance, it was Gold's Gym where I started managing. So I went to Gold's Gym and started managing. I now knew how to run the training department, run the gym, how to implement different systems, how to pull reports. I learned all about the numbers, sales, all that stuff. I learned all of that stuff while working that one job at Gold's Gym that I took on with me to other gyms. Now, the next job that I applied for, which actually was just my own business, now I took all that stuff over there with me and I created my own business from what I had there. And now what I was doing for them, making, $10, $15 an hour, what I was making there, which was still above minimum wage, I'm now doing for myself, which means the people that were paying $59 a session at Gold's Gym were now paying me $59 a session. I got a $40-something raise by going out on my own. And I could only do that with the skills and experience I had from doing those jobs that paid minimum wage or barely above. But the problem is people don't see that. They don't strive for more. They literally strive to just go in, punch the clock, and leave and get a check at the end of the week. Of course you're going to be poor. Of course you're going to have problems. That is what breeds, that's the opposite of what breeds success. That breeds failure. Like that 100% breeds failure when you don't want to be better every day. You try not to be better. You should try to be better. You shouldn't try not to be better because you don't want to do anything else. You don't feel like it. Well, the spot you're in right now, if you're making a minimum wage, this may seem great to you at first. And guess what? At first, it's going to look unbelievable, right? Because all this stuff is not going to take place right off the bat. So at first, your check is just going to come in for the first couple of weeks, maybe the first couple of months. And when these companies start making less money and start making cuts and doing stuff, you may still be getting your money, but how long are you going to keep your job for? You may be one of the ones on the cutting block really quickly. And then that business may not even be there, so you might wind up in unemployment. And guess what? Unemployment's not going to pay you $15 an hour. They're going to give you a certain percentage of that. So you're still not going to be making that $15 an hour when your business goes out of business, or the place that you're working at goes out of business. You're still going to be dropping back down. But if you did this and everything got inflated, now you're going to be making what this was down here when people were living. And now this is the norm. You're going to be even worse off later because you'll be making less money when things have inflated from this happening in the first place. And again, I only know this stuff because now I own a business. Now I know profit margins. I know what employees cost. I have 0 employees. I do everything myself. Why do you think that is? Because I can handle it myself, first of all. And second of all, paying out all the money to an employee, which I would love to do to give somebody a job, really cuts into the business profits. And I'm a small business, which means that there's no way I could even sustain having the business open while having employees. I can't have 4 employees. If I have 4 employees, I don't make any money. I don't have enough to put back in the business or pay myself. Like, people don't understand. Like, once you get into business yourself and you start understanding these things, this becomes glaringly obvious that this is a road to failure. And this isn't just a road to failure to one person. This is a road to failure to many. Even the people that are not on minimum wage, they're going to lose jobs eventually because their jobs that they're not making minimum wage at are eventually going to have to change because they're paying out so much more money. If you're paying minimum wage, and let's say, for instance, I make, $75 an hour is what I get per session, right? If I make $75 per session and minimum wage is $8, right? Before inflation, this is where it's at. Now, you bump it up to $15 an hour, right? This is going to go up too, right? So this is going to, if this doubles, that doubles. So that's $150 an hour. How many people are going to go from paying $75 to $150 an hour for training? All one jump, boom. Not many people. But inflation is going to go up. Things are going to cost more, which means that if I'm still making the same amount, while this person went up, 100%, I can't just sit there at the same part. Everything has to go up with it. And when everything goes up with it, people go out of business. Depressions happen. First recessions, then depressions. And that's how that works. So I don't think that people understand. I mean, they look at the first glance, they look at the politicians who want to support this, because the politicians always have something up their sleeve. If they're suggesting this, they benefit by that. I don't know what the benefit is. I'm not a politician. I'm not into politics. I can give a shit less. But the bottom line is, this happens, all of this other stuff happens, and eventually, well, you know it now or not, it trickles down to you. Even if it's just going to the gas station or going to the supermarket or whatever to do your normal daily things, you are going to wind up paying more, and you're not going to be making more because the minimum wage doesn't affect you. And if you do start making more because they try to keep things in balance, eventually more businesses go out of business, more people are out of work, and it's an even worse situation than before we had this, so we should have just left it here. The bottom line is, what we should be doing is taking whatever money like that, that extra whatever money that's going into that and putting it into programs for people to learn skills. Putting into programs to educate people to say, look, if you want more, get off your fucking ass. Get off your fucking ass and go chase it. Go create it. Get off your fucking ass and make yourself worth that. If you're worth that, you're going to get that. The problem is, many people don't want to hear this, you're not worth more than minimum wage skill-wise for any job. As a human being, you're invaluable. As a human being, you're priceless. But your skill set to work, minimum wage, that's where you're at. And until you change that, no matter what you do, no amount of fucking with these numbers is going to make your life better in the long term. You're going to have a short stint where you're like, oh, this is so awesome. And it's going to fucking crash. And everything around you, including people that you love that aren't affected by the minimum wage generally, it's going to affect them and crash shit for them. And you're going to watch that. It literally would be a complete collapse of society over time. And not a very long time. We're talking about, I'd say maybe 6 months, and this shit would be in full swing. You'd see a lot of things changing, especially now with the whole COVID thing. Many small businesses are barely functioning. A lot of big businesses have cut their business down to fucking at least half. So you throw this thing in the mix too, small businesses are gone. Big businesses have turned into small businesses. It's just a matter of time before they're gone, because this ain't going to stand either. Because as all this starts happening, they're going to go, minimum wage $15 is not enough. We should have shot higher. Let's go to $20 minimum wage. That's where it needs to be now. We were wrong with the number. It's the same fucking thing rolling downhill again. So be aware, guys. Like this $15 minimum wage thing, when I first heard it, I was like, well, that's interesting. I was like, that's pretty much like doubling what it is. And the more I thought about it, the more I looked into it, the more I understood it. I said, shit, it's going to destroy everything. Like, it's literally going to destroy everything, all because people are so lazy and want to be paid to do no more than they're already doing. Here's the thing. If you know your worth, go out there and get your worth. If you think you're worth more than $8, prove it. Don't sit there on the couch, file unemployment, and sit there and say, give me, give me, give me, I deserve. The people that deserve those higher paying jobs, higher payments per hour, higher paying salaries, have put in the work. They have put in the time. They have done things to get themselves in that position, which you haven't done. Therefore, there is a reward for that. When you graduate high school, guess what? Your reward is minimum wage. You go out there and learn a skill set, guess what? Your reward is a better life. You go out there and start a business and become an economics major, and you are now experiencing the overflow from that. You are now worth that, and that's what's going to create the life that you have. But if you sit on the couch and complain about how there's no opportunities, minimum wage sucks, blah, 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 gimme, 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 guess what? This ain't the answer. Eventually, if this does happen, it's going to collapse everything. So what do? Do we wait and just keep the minimum wage? Yeah, that's what we do. We educate people, we create programs, and we allow them to better themselves. And we start when they are kids. When they're young kids, we start on the fact that your life is what you make it. The harder you work, the more you're going to get. Plain and simple. None of this shit about government taking care of you, about somebody else fucking paying your bills. None of that shit. You work, you get paid. That's how it works. You work harder, you get paid more. That's how it works. You get more skills, you become better at your craft, you become an expert, you start your own business, you get paid more. Like, that's how the system works. And there's nothing going to change that, guys. There's absolutely nothing going to change that. So until we understand why this collapses, and I hope that this graph, which looks like mud now, but as I was going through it, if you were following it, that this stuff makes sense. This is why minimum wage of $15 will fail. This is why it's bad, and we should be working against this. Be working, trying to lift people up and educate them and get them to at least learn a skill that it doesn't have to be any specific skill. Something you love, like bodybuilding. I turned bodybuilding into a career. Guys, I'm a former heroin addict. I grew up in one of the smallest the smallest state in one of the smallest towns in the entire fucking country where there is almost no opportunity. And I did it. If I can do it, you can do it. BioStrengthTraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. BioStrength.com is a blog. It's the I can do it, you can do a bicep, and we are out.